Welcome to the Awakening Together channel here on YouTube. This is our Awakening Together weekly gathering. Each and every week we have a different minister who speaks. If you'd like to attend our services live, please visit our website awakening-together.org. Click on Online Sanctuary on the main menu. Then, How to Enter the Sanctuary. Our services are held Sundays at 10:15 a.m. Eastern Time. We'd love to see you in the sanctuary.
The mic is handed over to Reverend Jacquelyn Eckert, who will do our homily this morning. Thank you, Jacquelyn.
Thank you, Shauna. We really appreciate you stepping in while Sana's away. Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our weekly gathering. It's really, really sweet to be with you here this morning. What we do first is we greet one another. So, just as you would do in your brick and mortar church, where you turn around and greet the people in the pew behind you, we do that on our chat board here. So, thank you, Shauna, for playing the song. We don't normally get to hear the whole thing, so it was fun to do that this morning, to hear that song. You guys hearing me okay? Yes, good. All right. Let me get rid of that chat thing. So it feels like it's been forever since I've done this. I think it was a month ago. But what we'll do now is I will read to you our statement of purpose. We are an assembly of equals, joined in common purpose, awakening to one true self, within an appearance of many faiths, many cultures, and many symbols. We seek to discern one truth and to rest in its embrace. And traditionally, we pick a core value that most closely represents the message. This is a favorite of mine. I pick it all the time, but I love it. It's core value number 3. We accept one true self, which is one presence or being. Let me read those words again. We accept one true self, which is one presence or being, non-dual, without beginning or end, and absolutely changeless. We live this value by practicing letting go of the belief in the individual self as who we are. Now, this view changed on me, and all I can see is me, so let me get rid of that. Okay, much better. That last line, too late to stop now. Here we go. Let's take a moment for dedicated prayer here. Yeah, and I have one prayer this morning, and that is that that our hearts be joined, that the truth that emanates from this heart is the same truth that emanates from all our heart, and that those truths, those hearts, meet each other in common purpose this morning. I'm grateful for the opportunity to do that. Amen. And now we're going to have a reading, and our reading is by Glenda Carberry. She's going to read to us NTI Luke, chapter 3.
Good morning, everyone. Chapter 3, NTI Luke. Your willingness is the calling within you. This willingness is within everyone, resting patiently within the heart, waiting for the day it is asked to sing its song. The song it sings is a calling, asking the one who hears its tune to follow it to a new way and a new day. John the Baptist is the symbol of this calling within all of us. Not yet fully Christ, it is the voice within a split mind that calls it to return to one mind, which is Christ. For Christ is free of illusions and released from distractions, singularly focused on the willingness, that is the will of God. What distracts you from the singular thought of God? Distractions take many forms. They may seem to be positive or negative distractions. They may seem to be problems you face or pleasures you enjoy. But if they keep your thoughts away from the singular thought of God, they are distractions for you. Do not feel guilty about your distractions, for distractions cause no loss in the will of God. God's will is truth, and so it remains always true. Distractions can have no effect on it. Distractions only distract you from what is true, so that your focus is on distractions, which distracts you from the awareness of truth. But then the awakened willingness within comes, and it calls you to turn away from distractions. It calls you to return your mind fully to the awareness of truth. In this calling, your distractions can serve the purpose of truth. For all things given to your willingness will be used by your willingness to further awaken the call within you. This will continue until your distractions are no more, and you are fully awake to a singular thought of God without distractions of any kind. This is the purpose of John, the call within you that calls you to awaken. Follow the voice, listen to it. Do not let fear imprison this voice within you. It is written in the book of words of Isaiah the prophet, a voice of one calling in the desert, prepare the way for the Lord, make straight paths for him. Every valley be filled in, every mountain and hill made low. The crooked road shall become straight, the rough ways smooth, and all mankind will see God's salvation. The most helpful way for you to view yourself is not to view yourself as special. The ego wants to see itself as special. Special is separate. So to surrender to ego's desire is to continue to see yourself as separate from God. This is not helpful. Do not look at Jesus' baptism and see him as special in comparison to you or others. Look at his baptism and realize Jesus was baptized with others and the same as others, in the same water and by the same one. Jesus was baptized as one Son of God. It was this one Son that was spoken. You are my Son, whom I love. With you I am well pleased. These are the words spoken of you. Read these words, listen to them, take them into your heart, accept them as true of you, and accept them as true of you as they were true of Jesus, for there is no difference of any kind. Rejoice that you are not special and that Jesus was not special, for it is all the same. You are he and he is you. You are the one Son of God. This is your truth. You are the Son of God just as Jesus was. There is no difference among you. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenda. Yeah, perfect. It's funny. So I was sitting there last week going, oh great. I get to talk next week. I have no idea what I'm going to talk about. None. So I asked for some guidance on what to speak about. And it's so funny. Every time I ask for guidance, I realize I've been hearing guidance for weeks, you know. It's, oh yeah, that. But I've been hearing to go back to NTI. And so when I asked for guidance, I picked up NTI and did the Bible dipping thing, right? Where you just open it up and go, that. And that was NTI Luke chapter 3. And so when I sit down with it, I'm like, what is that? There's so many good chapters in Luke 3. You want me to read this? Luke chapter 3, it doesn't really say anything. Well, and of course, I was wrong because it does. In fact, I think that it says it all. So this first paragraph, your willingness is the calling within you. Last week, the week before, we went on a mini retreat, and Shauna had prepared the contemplation for the retreat. And the question was, excuse me, the question was, what am I devoted to? And ego reads that question and goes, nothing. But it came very quickly that I am devoted to the call within my heart. And when I was reporting that out later, I'm like, and that's very strange. And Regina's like, why? And I'm like, because it's just never been formulated for me that way. I hadn't thought of my devotion as being devoted to the call within my heart. And frankly, the understanding that's been given me in reading Luke chapter 3 is there's nothing else to be devoted to. That call is the call that's within all of us, and it's the call to return to the one mind. Again, NTI Luke chapter 3 says, your willingness is the calling within you. This willingness is within everyone, resting patiently within the heart, waiting for the day it's asked to sing its song. So, of course, what's going on here in the Bible is, it may be obvious, but Jesus is coming to be baptized by John the Baptist. It talks here about the split mind, and that this call to return from the heart is heard within the split mind. It says John the Baptist is the symbol of this calling within all of us, not yet fully the Christ. It is the voice within a split mind that calls it to return to the one mind, which is the Christ. For Christ is free of illusions and released from distractions, singularly focused on the willingness that is the will of God. And then it asks us the question, what distracts you from the singular thought of God? And I think that, I don't know how many times I've read this, many, I'm sure. But it really struck me differently when I saw it this time. It's like, what distracts you? It's not like, are you out listening to rock and roll music, drinking beer? Whatever it is, it's not like, what actions am I taking that distract me from the spiritual path? It's not asking that at all. It's the real question that it seems to be asking, that it feels clear to me that it's asking as I read it now, is where am I placing my believing attention? What thoughts am I believing that say, you're not the one Son of God? It says down in the next paragraph, it says, distractions take many forms. Names a couple of them. It says, but if they keep your thoughts away from the singular thought of God, they're distractions for you. From the singular thought of God. So what is singular? It's the one, right? It's not many. It's not a bunch of separate persons. Let me just, thought I'd find that somewhere. I didn't find it. I picked up the definition. Let's see. Singular means denoting or referring to just one person or thing. So what thoughts am I believing that tell me I am separate from God, separate from you, separate from the universe? Those are the distractions. When I give those thoughts believing attention, I'm allowing myself to be distracted. I am being an unwitting participant in my own deceit. The other thing that came for me when Shauna had us contemplate the question, what am I devoted to, was I'm devoted to the magic, to the mystery, to that which is beyond what I think of myself as, right? It's like when we grew up and we watched all these religious epics, Ben-Hur and Ten Commandments and that sort of thing. It's like this welling up inside, oh my God, this great magic, this great that is the calling of my heart. Why is this the calling of my heart? This is because you can feel it when you watch the majesty. I mean, it's even like looking at the mountains out here, right? It's like, oh my God, this calls to me. This is the call within my heart. I was even talking with, I think it was Martha, who was out here for the Silence and Satsang retreat. We were talking about Star Wars, and when Star Wars came out, right, and the big ship comes across the screen, right? And again, it's that it evokes that feeling beyond the person, the possibility, the magic, the majesty that lies beyond the person. So we are unwitting participants in our own deceit. These thoughts about ourselves as person, these are self-limiting thoughts. We are so powerful that if we want to believe we're limited, okay, that's what we'll experience. If we want to forget that this oneness, this singular thought of God is what we are, okay, that will be your experience. So where am I participating in my own deceit? That's the question. And the answer, and frankly, the answer is everywhere, every single thought that I have. And so we're often counseled in the things that we look at here in Awakening Together to let go of thinking, to ignore the chattering of the thinking mind, to let go of thought entirely. And why? Because that thought system is a closed thought system. It will always say, you are a person, you are a person, you are a person. Even in our spiritual journey, even as we try to reach beyond the person, we're doing it from the belief, I am a person. The truth is out there. The oneness is out there, right? Oneness is out there, I'm over here. Right? It's oneness, right? What does that mean? It's the singular thought of God. Again, it notes here that the Christ is the voice within a split mind that calls it to return to the one mind, which is the Christ. For Christ is free of illusions and released from distractions, singularly focused on the willingness that is the will of God. The reading says, distractions only distract you from what is true, so that your focus is on the distractions, which distract you from the awareness of truth. We're, not surprisingly, we're studying the same thing in Gentle Healing Year 3. We're on step 3 right now in the 7 steps to awakening. Step 3 says, see how the imposter self perpetuates its imaginary self. See how the imposter self perpetuates its imaginary self in all illusion and suffering. Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj says, when you believe yourself to be a person, you see persons everywhere. In reality, there are no persons. There's the singular God, the singular self. That is what we are. Again, our core value says we accept one true self, one presence or being, non-dual, not that presence out there and me over here. That's the idea of non-dual, right? There's only one thing going on here. We live this value by practicing letting go of the belief in the individual self as who we are. This reading goes on to say the most helpful way for you to view yourself is not to view yourself as special. And again, it's funny when we read it with the thinking mind, within the constraints of the thinking mind, it becomes distorted. Oh, it's telling me I shouldn't, puff myself up, and and that's part of it. But when it talks about special, it's talking about different from, worse than, better than. Let me see the definition of special: readily distinguishable from others of the same category, unique, or being other than usual. So again, it's saying don't split yourself off. Don't see a them out there and a me over here. And how often do we do that? I mean, because we're like, oh, well, I know Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj, could do it, but, he was special. He must have lived many lifetimes that made him special, right? And so he was just ready to pop in this lifetime. Or Regina, that Regina, but, she's so disciplined. Whatever it is we do, again, we're conscripts in this well, again, we're unwitting participants in our own deceit. We deceive ourselves every time we participate in this I thought. And when do we do that? With every thought. It's like, well, okay, if we do it with every thought, well, we're really, we're hurting then, right? No. NTI Luke says, in this calling, your distractions can serve the purpose of truth. And how is that done? What does that mean? How can your distractions serve the purpose of truth? This is the little s self-inquiry that Inner Ramana calls us to, right? Oh, I can't do that. Or, oh, Regina's different than me. Is that true? Is that true? Look at it. Is it true, or is it a thought that I'm willingly believing or unwittingly believing? Is it true that I have to become what I am? Or can I let that thought go? Rupert Spira says, what did he say? Wait a minute, I got it written down here somewhere. One of these papers. Rupert Spira said, faith is complete surrender of everything that seems to limit you. Surrender is another name for self-inquiry. It is the letting go of everything that is superfluous to you. It is letting go and letting go until you arrive at that element of yourself that you cannot let go of, your naked, self-aware being. So again, in this calling, your distractions can serve the purpose of truth. This letting go will continue until your distractions are no more and you are fully awake to the singular thought of God without distraction of any kind. You're letting go of the willingness to give your believing attention to the thoughts that say, I am this, I am that, I'm certainly not that. So I talked about how this idea transformed for me. It's like, because again, anytime I'd read this before, I heard, what am I doing? What am I doing? I'm wasting my time. I'm watching TV, whatever it is. What actions am I taking? But it's not about that. Again, it's where am I placing my believing attention? And recently, this whole idea that we've heard many, many times before, I am not the doer, just really struck me as different. Right? I am the space in which the doing is done. Heck, I'm not even the instigator of the doing, right? And even when we say, oh, well, I'm the observer of what's being done. Well, again, it's like it locks you into this, okay, now I'm in this box. I'm not in a box. I am all that is. What thoughts are saying, I am something else. I'm a person. I'm this or that. I can't do that. Where am I agreeing to limit myself? Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj also says, by the way, there's no such thing as a person. There is no such thing as a person. Let me see. Let me find this quote I want to share with you, apparently. One more quote from 7 Steps, Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj. This is quote 599. When the mind is kept away from its preoccupations, read distractions, right? When the mind is kept away from its preoccupations, it becomes quiet. If you do not disturb this quiet and stay in it, you find that it is permeated with a light and a love you've never known. And yet, you recognize it at once as your own nature. Once you have passed through this experience, you will never be the same man again. The unruly mind may break its peace and obliterate its vision, but it is bound to return, provided the effort is sustained. Until the day when all bonds are broken, delusions and attachments end, and life becomes supremely concentrated in the present. When the mind is kept away from its preoccupations, it becomes quiet. You find that it is permeated with a light and a love you've never known, and yet you recognize it as at once as your own nature. Oh, well, surely they can't be talking to me because, I haven't been studying very hard, or, and I've been, I don't know, listening to rock and roll music and whatever it is. Watching too much TV. I'm not good enough. Or even, well, I've been really working hard on this spiritual path, and one of these days I will become dedicated, and then I can become what I am. You're not the doer. You are the all in which everything occurs. So really the question becomes a very simple one. Where am I placing my believing attention? What am I choosing to see? And they're subtle thoughts. Oh, I almost get that, but it's beyond me. Let me study for another week or month or year or lifetime. Then I'll get it. A Course in Miracles talks about the denial, about denying let me get it out. A Course in Miracles talks about denying the denial of truth. The denial of truth is the I thought. The denial of truth is the thought that I am a person. You know, A Course in Miracles says you're not a body. Well, that's been quite confusing, I think, to several people, many of us over the years. Okay, I'm not a body. That must mean I'm a spirit. Okay, I'm the thing that's inside the body. No, that's not it either. I'm all that is. And it's only because I have the power, I am the power of all that is, that I'm able to conceive of myself as this tiny little person separate from everything else. And then to have that reflected in what I seemingly see. And so I see, you know, again, it's the loop of experience. I see it. Okay, that looks real. I believe it. And I stay in that loop. But it's not what you are. It's not. It's not. NTI Luke chapter 3 says, Jesus was baptized as the one Son of God. It was of this one Son that it was spoken, you are my Son, whom I love. With you I am well pleased. These words are spoken of you. Not you and Jesus, you and me, you and the other people here. One Son. You know, Paul Hederman talks about, he's a hoot. Paul Hederman talks about, listen, I'm not talking to you, so if you don't understand what I'm saying, that's great, right? I'm talking to the one that's beyond who you think yourself to be. I'm talking to the one Son of God. You are the one Son of God. This is your truth. NTI Luke 3 says, you are the Son of God, just as Jesus was. There is no difference among you. There are no separate parts. So I gave you all the, in the description, I don't know if you saw it, but I gave you all a Sri Muruganar quote that talked about, well, I'll just read it to you. It says, as long as we do not free ourselves from the state of inattention in which the unified state of the self that exists as pure consciousness is subverted through the ego, the state of love that is the fullness of the real, free of all differentiation, will not be experienced in the heart. Woo, that's a mouthful, right? But if you take a second and look at it, it's saying the same thing. This ego state is the state of inattention, is the distraction from the truth of the one self, free of all differentiation. Right? That's the real. What do? We participate in this, oh, well, you know, I'm this, I'm that. What does judgment do? The same thing. Well, you may do that, but I would never do that, right? It's all an active participation, an active denial of the truth of the oneness that we are. So what is our job? To deny the denial of the truth. And to the extent that you're not doing it, it's okay. But to the extent that you're not doing that, you're participating in your distraction. You're participating in the fragmentation from the singularness of God. So this magic that makes the heart burst, or this majesty that makes the heart burst, that is what you are. We don't have to go anywhere to get there. That is what you are. And to the extent that you're not feeling that, it's because you, me, are participating in this self-deceit, this belief that I'm something that I'm not. I'm not, nor could I ever be separate from all that is. You know, this spiritual learning seems always to me to be a spiral that goes deeper and deeper and deeper. And we begin to get this idea when we go, oh, I shouldn't listen, you know, when the judge says, you know, you can't do that, or whatever limiting thought it is. And that's a great place to begin. But if you follow that, if you follow the rejection of the limiting thoughts all the way to its core, you're left with, you arrive at that element of yourself you cannot let go of, your naked, self-aware being. Again, I feel to read you this Rupert Spira quote again. Faith is complete surrender of everything that seems to limit you. Surrender is another name for self-inquiry. It is the letting go of everything that is superfluous to you. These limitations, these thoughts about what I am, right? It's a letting go of all of that. It is letting go and letting go until you arrive at that element of yourself that you cannot let go of. Your naked, self-aware being. So I ask you to ask yourself, what distracts you from the singular thought of God? What are you believing about yourself? And again, there's no recrimination in that. It's like, don't feel guilty about it. Just notice. Just notice. Where am I participating in that dualistic belief? And then use that. Is this true? Is it really true that I could be this splinter from the singular thought of God? That I could be separate from the all that is? Is it true? Ask. This will continue until your distractions are no more and you are fully awake to the singular thought of God without distraction of any kind. And again, when you feel that majesty, when you have something that stirs that calling within your heart, recognize that is you. That is you. If you do not disturb this quiet and stay in it, you find that it is permeated with a light and a love you have never known. And yet you recognize it at once as your own nature. That is what you are. There's a line in A Course in Miracles that says the truth will tell you of itself. This is what it's talking about. If we're not listening to the distractions, we go to this place. Yeah, and I'm pausing there because go to this place is even like, oh, here I am over here and I'm going to go over there. Language, there are the limitations of language. But we recognize the allness as what we are. And you know that. You've felt that. Okay, I'm going to play a song. Thank you for listening. Let's see. Oh, let me also say that, Shauna, will you put up the donation link during the song? And feel free to donate to Awakening Together. We operate on your donations. And so now I'm going to play a song. What a great song. I love that. Anyway, it's your all's time to comment if you feel to. So, yeah. Thank you, Tawanda. Tawanda says that's what she needed to hear today. Does anybody want to say anything? Shauna.
I'll start off and break the ice. That was a beautiful message, Jacquelyn. Thank you. It just reinforces what I've been drawn to really notice is, like you said, we know the majesty, the awe that we are. We know that. And yet I go into comparison. I go into comparison, and that's where the thought takes over. And that's where I lose my singular thought of God, is through comparison for this one. And that's what's also so important that you in Luke chapter 3 said, was to not beat myself up over that, to not feel guilty for that, but to look with curiosity, say, yes, I see you now, because now healing's coming, and then drop right back into what we are. So thank you, Jacquelyn. And I see Rhoda has her hand up.
Thank you, Shauna. Ms. Rhoda.
Good morning. That was energizing. Thank you. Really, really beautiful. I know that the question that sparked all this that you mentioned was, what are you devoted to? And that is hugely powerful to notice every time I feel myself caught in the illusion. And to notice clearly what you said was without recrimination, that every time I'm stuck in illusion, every time I'm believing some point of misery and self and separateness, self, little s, self, separateness, that there is devotion to maintaining this separate identity. There is devotion to being the things that I've taught myself over and over and over and over and over. And to be able to see that, not at one time I would have heard devoted to that and felt very bad, awful, frankly. I would be even separating myself further from the big S self, separating this identity further. But today it feels like the pivot point on which to just notice, yep, I am believing, because as you said so elegantly, I have the power. I think these were your words. The power is within us all to believe that we are this tiny, tiny separate person. And that's the only reason we can even see it. So that is the pivot point on which to not beat myself up with a yardstick or beat others up with a yardstick, because both those things happen, but to see for both, for all, see for all, see as all, with all, be all. So really gorgeous. Thank you. Thank you for your clarity today. That just was gorgeous.
Beautiful. Thank you, Rhoda. Wow. And Kate.
Yeah, thank you so much for just exploring more and kind of that analysis of what it actually means to distract ourselves. Because, I've noticed, okay, well, like, oh, if I do this better and this better, or I can fix this, but that's still part of the ego, or like that separate self, in a way to avoid what like the simple like antidote is just like remembering that we're this unity, this singularity that you kept talking about, and that we're the magic that makes the heart burst. I loved that, that line. And this past week, I've been just kind of sometimes feeling like, oh, I don't like, there was more anger and not necessarily knowing how to love. And so the message I kept getting was just rest in the love. But it's kind of along with this message, it's like, no, I don't need to fix all these little things. It's like the real issue is just thinking I'm separate. So yeah, thank you for just analyzing that further, and then just kind of giving those antidotes and all the different like quotes. And I love that Rupert Spira one especially. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, lovely, lovely. Okay. Anybody else want to share? We have apparently plenty of time.
Sorry,
I'm sorry. Oh, hey, yeah.
It's Jill. I pressed the wrong button on the. I just wanted to go over. You said, let me just get back. Where is it? Right. You said watching TV is okay, but where am I placing my truth? Okay. Now, I think I got from Shauna that it might be where I'm comparing in what I'm watching, or are we talking about, am I getting drawn into the story? I just want a little bit of elaboration. Where am I placing my truth? So can you talk to me about that bit more, please?
Sure. I appreciate the question. You know, at the root of every thought that we have within this limited mind is the I thought. I am this, I am that. It's like our starting point. If you start from the wrong point, if you start from if I give you directions how to get somewhere, I got to know where you really are to tell you how to get there. If you think you're somewhere else, then the directions are not going to be successful. It's this real belief, this really buying into the belief in the person. So, and you called it the story. So yeah, it's the story that I am a separate individual in a world full of separate individuals. And by the way, I'm also separate from that world. So we do it in many, many ways. We do it in the way we think about ourselves. As Rhoda was talking about a while ago, the beating ourselves up, because I am doing something wrong. The comparison that Shauna was talking about, because I am no Regina Dawn Akers, right? Because, it's always I. So we start from that incorrect starting point. And if you start from there, the belief that that I am separate from everybody and everything, if you start there, you can't arrive at the fullness of the self, because you've already believed the I-ness by that very thought. Does that make sense?
That does. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. So we are going to have a, oh, okay, Kathy. Yeah, it's sometimes hard to unmute on the phone. Kathy's on the phone. Shauna, do you want to unmute her? There she is.
Thanks, Shauna and Jacquelyn. I just have a question, but I'm not sure that it's a question that necessarily has an answer. Meaning, I don't know that that it's rhetorical or whatever. But the question is, what is changelessness? And just want to sort of put that within an understanding of universal teaching that's maybe not universal, maybe it is, but since we're a universal assembly, the universal teaching is that the only constant in the universe is change. So what then is changelessness? If in fact that universal teaching is true.
Yeah, and I appreciate the question, and changelessness is the eternal space, if you will, in which everything happens. It is the screen upon which all the movies are played, right? So, you know, you can play any movie you want. You can play cartoons, you can play horror films, you can play whatever, biographies. That screen, the space, the isness out of which everything comes, that is always there. Just as the screen never changes regardless of what's played on it. It's the substratum of everything. Does that make sense, Kathy?
It's feeling so to be everything. We're nothing and everything always. So no thing, nothing, and everything. So there's nothing separate. And this brings up for me, this is what came up from my the gifting that you gave in this homily. I just then have to wonder, what is awareness? Because awareness just sort of seems to go back to a solid state of being, a solid state, a noun. In fact, the word awareness is an adjective coupled with the suffix ending ness, which converts it into a noun. So it's like being back in a state of being. So if I'm trying to be aware of awareness, then the awareing is the everything, the change within the changelessness, and then trying to turn attention back onto a solid state, a separate entity that is aware of the everything that it is. And it seems to me it just goes nowhere, it doesn't exist. It's like the circle, the creative loop, the circle of creation that is explained to us in NTI, where there's no beginning, there's no end to it. It's continuous, so continuous change. So it's not something we can step out of and say, that's not me, is it? I don't know.
Well, and I think you point to the dilemma, right, about trying to analyze this with the thinking mind. What we are is beyond the thinking mind, and that's why this is a process of the neti thing, right? A process of eliminating what we're not. Again, Rupert said it is the letting go of everything that is superfluous to you, to the truth of what you are. It's letting go and letting go until you arrive at that element of yourself that you cannot let go of. And of course, this would be what we refer to with our limited human language as awareness, or beingness, or consciousness, or all that is. So thinking about it necessarily contains it. So it's really, so this is why we talk about direct experience. This is why we talk about saying, wait a minute, is that true? And then just opening to the truth of what we are. We call that grace, we call that revelation, because it's beyond, it's outside of this trap of the thinking mind. So, Thank you for your questions, Kathy. We really appreciate it. I will invite you guys to stick around for fellowship half hour with George. And thank you so much. I love you all dearly. And we'll do this again sometime real soon. Thank you, Glenda, for reading. It was perfect.
You've been watching our online gathering. It happens weekly on Sundays at 10:15 a.m. Eastern Time. To join us live in the sanctuary, visit our website, awakening-together.org. You'll want to click on Online Sanctuary in the main menu, and then in the drop-down menu, look for How to Enter the Sanctuary. Right there at the top of the page is a clickable link. We'd love to see you in the sanctuary and join with you in fellowship. Thank you again for watching. Also, please know that if you'd like to stay connected via the Awakening Together channel here on YouTube, you can subscribe and hit the bell for more notifications. We hope to see you in the sanctuary.